This is just the beginning, ramping up production, accelerating production up to 150,000 a year. Can you make it to 150,000 in the next year?
Ford has been cutting a significant number of jobs in the past few years, especially in 2022, and it was never clear why they were doing so. Recently, Ford's officials stepped out and addressed the company's actions concerning the reduction of its workforce. Why did Ford decide to cut a huge number of its workers loose? And what does this have to do with the company's plans for its future? Join us as we explore why did Ford cut so many jobs. The Ford Motor Company has been cutting jobs significantly for the past year. The CEO of Ford, J.Farly, announced in late July 2022 that the company has, quote, far too many people, and that they're planning on reducing the number of their employees over time. Farley even went ahead and said that Ford plans to let loose more than 6,000 people over the upcoming months. Sure enough, only a month later, Ford announced that they were cutting 3,000 jobs from its global workforce. This included around 2,000 salaried positions and 1,000 agency jobs all over the US, Canada, and India. Considering the fact that Ford employs around 31,000 salaried people in North America, and therefore a 10% cut is extremely significant, and it's completely reasonable why Ford's employees are concerned about their jobs. Recently, only a couple of weeks ago, Ford yet again announced that they were going to reduce around 1,000 jobs in its German factory, which understandably shook the company's employees yet again, as 1,000 people is a huge number for the European subsidiary. It was mentioned that the job losses will be across the board in assembly, engine and transmission manufacturing, and also in development, administration, and sales. Well, Ford officials have backtracked on that statement. However, this is in no way, shape, or form good news. In fact, they said they weren't planning on eliminating only 1,000 jobs in the Cologne-based factory. Oh no, they've recently stated they plan on reducing their number of employees by 3,200 people, which is frankly unbelievable. 2,500 jobs in product development will be axed, while the remaining 700 will be administrative roles. If we take into consideration the fact that the factory in Germany employs a little less than 14,000 people, this means that almost 25% of people employed by Ford in Germany will soon become jobless. Some of the positions that they were offering in Europe will be transitioned to the US, which technically means that they will technically retain a certain number of employees. However, the people that are working for the company in Europe will lose their source of income. Ford addressed this quite vaguely back in 2022. They said that building a future they've envisioned for the company requires hanging and reshaping virtually all aspects of the way the company has operated for more than a century. It requires focus, clarity, and above all else, speed. This technically means redeploying resources and addressing the company's cost structure so that they could easily outcompete their key rivals. So, beating their rivals by lowering your overall amount of employees? Where's the logic in that? Why did Ford actually decide to cut a huge number of its workers loose? What's the real reason for this? Well, there are a number of reasons for this, and the two that are most prominent are, for one, the fact that the world went through a huge crisis during the past 3 years, which puts a huge strain on the company in a financial sense. You see, Ford, which is by far one of the most important and popular car manufacturers of all time, has had a huge number of hardships during the last few years. Cutting off a portion of its own overall staff will most certainly relax the budget of the company, and moving a certain number of positions from Europe back to the US will also logistically simplify the overall production and development process, thus saving the company even more money. Ford's cost-cutting actions are the latest in a series of efforts by companies to reduce expenses and employee headcount amid fears of a potential recession or economic softening, with inflation hovering near a 40-year high. Not only that, but the company has fallen out of favor, as Ford is currently in one of its lowest phases. Their overall quality control has deteriorated considerably compared to what it was earlier. I mean, Ford has recalled a huge number of vehicles in the past year or two, and the popularity and dependability of the brand have fallen considerably. And with it, so did sales. So it's not really a surprise that Ford is looking for a way to cut corners and make up for their losses, not to mention the shift. What does this have to do with the company's future? The other reason for both the recent and the upcoming job cut is the fact that Ford is planning on going full electric with their models by 2030, and they've been reducing the number of jobs that they offer simply because they don't need a live workforce anymore. The company announced a $2 billion investment last year in expanding production in its Cologne plant in Germany. which currently produces the Ford Fiesta, as well as engines and transmissions, to make mass-market all-electric models. It's not a secret that most of Ford's current lineup, like the humble Fiesta, is going to be discontinued as soon as their current generation ends its life cycle, making the Cologne factory one of the most viable choices for an all-electric conversion, just like they'll convert the Oakville assembly plant. A Ford spokesman said that the company's transformation to an all-electric portfolio will require a significant change in the way the car manufacturer develops, builds, and sells its vehicles, which will therefore impact the company's organizational structure, while also changing the talents and skills that are required for their employees. Ford is planning on introducing a whopping 7 new electric models to be produced in Europe. And not only that, but they're also working on a battery assembly site in Germany and a nickel cell manufacturing joint venture in Turkey as part of a major electric vehicle push on the continent. Another reason for Ford cutting jobs in Europe is the fact that Ford will need fewer engineering resources for its electrification shift, simply because it's using VW Group's MEB all-electric platform for 2 EVs that will launch this year and next year. More than 1.2 million cars will be made on this platform. Would you buy one of these Volkswagen-based Fords, or would you prefer a more traditional and original car from the Blue Oval? Be sure to let us know in the comment section down below. Thanks to the upcoming shift to all-electric vehicles, Ford is aiming at automating its complete production process, or as much as it can, and therefore need fewer and fewer people working for them. The company even recently announced in June last year that there will be significant job cuts coming very soon at its factory in Spain, and also its plant in Saarlouis, Germany, as the shift to EV production meant it would require fewer labor hours to assemble cars. All is not lost, however, as we believe that Ford will eventually open up new job positions, as making themselves dependent on other car manufacturers, like Volkswagen in this case, is definitely not the way to go. As they themselves said, the future of the brand will require a different set of skills and talents for the company to advance into the future. And therefore, we're sure there will be new openings for a myriad of jobs in the near future. To further cement this theory, even though Ford will be using Volkswagen's MEB platform for 2 of its models, after those launches, Ford's future EVs in Europe will use the automaker's new software-defined electric architecture developed in the US. This isn't great news for the European subsidiary of the company, but it's good that it will localize its production once again and actually stand firmly on the ground. Thankfully, the production of these vehicles will remain situated in Europe, and Ford will probably up their game once again and remain one of the most significant car brands in the world. However, Ford will first have to fix their endless recalls and issues concerning their brand image, which has deteriorated significantly. In fact, they've become synonymous with recalls in the past couple of years thanks to their extremely bad quality control. If you'd like to learn more about the real reasons behind Ford's most recent recalls, be sure to check out this video. Well, we'll just have to wait and see if they'll actually do something significant about these issues. And even though we believe in Ford, we are definitely going to remain skeptical towards their products until they improve their quality. Fingers crossed that will happen as soon as possible.